What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks on a Monday. DJ, Bucky, and Baldy with you. Baldy, first of all, man, that's a strong nonpartisan jacket that you're wearing right there.
Yeah, I saw this down outside the cafeteria on Friday. I think I'm like, I got to have that jacket, man.
Yeah,
got to have it. I haven't taken it off.
It's fantastic. I feel like you got that out of the Jerry Markbright collection.
This is a throwback, man. You know what, man? I'm not taking it off.
I'm so glad that you elected to wear that Letterman's jacket instead of that Duke Letterman jacket that I thought that you were going to show up. I thought because that's what
just Star Heels on Saturday, Bucky.
Because I was like, if Baldy shows up with a Duke jacket after they run, DJ, they run a fake field goal. They run a fake field goal, like the field goal would put them ahead.
Yeah,
they run it to go up to put themselves in a position to win the game. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like Manny Diaz, why would you do that? Like, just hats off, man. Just a sad day. Sad day in Chapel Hill.
That's a tough one. Baldy, I want to join the winning side here. So the fact that you were a winner this week, App State finally won a game, which was nice. But hey, the Christian High Patriots, my son's high school team, we're in the CIF championship game coming up this week. We had a big held on for a little 2017 W. So we are at Southwestern College playing the Central High School out there out in the desert. Tough kids from out in the desert. So we'll see how that goes.
Good. That's great though.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. We have some fun.
Oh, yeah. Is this the first championship experience in the Jeremiah High School in terms of CIF stuff?
So this would be it would be a chance for our school to be our 11th CIF championship, which I think is second most in San Diego County. I was, Buck, I only played 3 years of varsity football, so I only won 3 because I didn't play the freshman.
Your eligibility ran out.
Yeah, that was it. That was why they capped it. They capped it right there. And both my nephews, I believe, won 1. So this could be like, if they have 11, and I think 6 of them would have a Jeremiah family member on there. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Very cool. All right, let's jump into these games. Baldy, you were at a good one. Let's start with where you were, because Indy KC. This was a KC team that, man, they were teetering on the brink, looking at them saying they're not going to be in the tournament. That's a wrap. And then they had a furious comeback over the Colts.
Yeah, it was they couldn't score a touchdown, DJ, for the first 3 quarters. I mean, they had 3 field goals. They couldn't get an explosive play. I mean, I got to admit that for the first time, the Colts were able to put out Sauce, Travarius Ward, and, Kenny Moore. And they played, they just put a lid over the top of the Chiefs. Mahomes had some protection. He had some time. He just couldn't find anything down the field for the first 3 quarters. And then they're backed up on the goal line at the end of the 3rd quarter. And he does a classic Mahomes, and Rashee Rice kind of breaks loose from Kenny Moore, and he hits him in stride for 45. And that kind of ignited things for the Chiefs offense, because they were asleep. And the Colts defense played great. Jermaine Pratt had 20 tackles. Zaire Franklin pulled the ball out of Kareem Hunt's hands, got a fumble recovery. They played great defense for 3 quarters. But Mahomes he's just Mahomes, man. He just keeps competing. He keeps firing. He keeps finding a way. And they got off of life support, because that's exactly where they were. We've all been at Arrowhead. We know how that place rocks. We know how the decibel. That place was a morgue for the first 3 quarters of that game. And they're looking at going 5-6 and losing 3 in a row. And then that one play to Rashee Rice kind of woke up the whole team, I thought.
That's but it's amazing, but it's also the thing that the league fears, right? Everyone wants the Chiefs to go away. It's funny because I'm looking at it with Jags people, and you're like, oh, man, we want the Colts to go down. We don't want the Chiefs to lose. Like the Colts bring it. But there's this fear of Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. It almost like when we were teenagers or whatever, when it was Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Freddy Krueger can't kill them. Like you want them out. Yeah. So you're just scared that if they get in, because they've done it so much,
nobody wants
he
to
just
see
knows. Yeah. And so that's the fear that everyone has. If they mess around and get in the tournament, they'll find a way to be the last team standing again. Because we've seen this story, we've seen this movie over and over and over again.
No doubt. And Baldy, you mentioned a couple guys that I dug in and watched from this. I was curious. Rashee Rice, 8 for $141. So I'm looking at how are they using him? It's a couple quick screens. It's a fly sweep. It's some bubbles. It's a broken play.
Yeah.
It's run after catch, and then they hit him with mesh one time, and then down in the red zone, they fake mesh, and he ends up wheeling back out the back door. It was just a really cool design. But he's just kind of he's the guy, get the ball in his hands and let him run with it. I mean, that's what the role that he's been playing. But still wasn't a crisp game. They ran a bazillion plays. Like the points to play ratio is not
They had
great
like
for Kansas
98
City.
plays, DJ.
I know. That's what I'm saying. You think you'd score more points.
Almost 100. It was like a Big 12 college game back in the day, where you both sides would put up 100 plays. The thing, though, that, Indianapolis has to be kicking themselves. Like they went away from feeding Jonathan Taylor in that game. They had 4 straight 3-and-outs, and they put it in Daniel Jones's hand. He's played good, but I just don't understand why they would go away and trying to feed Jonathan Taylor. It wasn't like they were doing anything special up front. Chris Jones out there, but they were I just never thought they tried to get him going. And I saw the same thing happen when they lost to Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. They went away from Jonathan Taylor, and I just for the life of me can't figure out because I like Shane Steichen. I think he's a really good designer of offense. I just can't figure out how they would go away from their best player like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's the engine, and you can't get that confused with the different weapons they have and different ways they can beat you. He's still the engine, makes the whole thing go. But I know they lost the ball game, but I didn't come out of that thinking any less of Indianapolis. Like you said, just put the ball in Jonathan Taylor's belly a little bit. They probably win that game. That's a good football team. Anyways, big win for the Chiefs. Let's get to the Sunday nighter. We can kind of work backwards here. Buck, Tampa, and the Rams. A game that the Rams, look, Baker Mayfield got knocked out of this game, but that game was over before he got knocked out of that game.
Yeah, it was, man. Look, I'm going to say this, man. Right now, in looking at all the teams, the Rams are the best team in football. They can get it done in so many different ways. There's a saying where you say, hey, we win gritty, we win pretty. The Rams can do it either way you want. If you want a down and dirty game, you want a physical game where it's about the run game and defense, they can do that. If you want them to throw it all over the yard and show the creativity of Sean McVay's offensive mind, they can do that. They just have so many different paths to victory that they're very, very difficult to defend. And then when it comes to their personnel, I can't say that they have all A-level defenders, but man, you'd be hard-pressed to find a team that plays as hard as the Rams. Their physicality, their toughness, their overall energy, you feel when you watch them. I've seen it in person at London, but then watching them last night on TV, you could feel their presence. They're just a really good team. And man, I know the division is tough with them in Seattle and they go back and forth, but I'm just hard pressed to find a team that's playing better than them right now as we head down the stretch.
I'm looking at them, Baldy, and wondering how big you think home field advantage is. I mean, that game, because if you look at them in Philly on a collision course and that game and the weather, I know obviously the Rams gave them all they could handle in the playoffs last year, but to me, that's a massive home field advantage. They get to play that game at SoFi against the Eagles versus having to play them on the road.
Well, it'll be all Eagle fans out there. They're going to invade SoFi like they always do. So it's going to be an Eagle home game. I announced the week 4 game with the Rams and the Eagles, and Eagles blocked 2 field goals in the fourth quarter to win the game. But the Rams were blown. It was a boat race in that game. It was 26-7. And the Eagles were asleep, and they had a good second half and made some plays, with special teams. But to say they're complete is an under. They don't have any bad games. They don't play badly. They don't go to sleep. And Stafford's the MVP of this league. I'm just amazed at how effective they use their tight ends. Colby Parkinson catches, another touchdown pass. They've got 8 of the 30 touchdowns that Stafford has thrown has been to the tight ends. And they play 2 and 3 tight ends. It's becoming a tight end league. They've got 4 of them that they dress, counting Terrence Ferguson, but they all have a separate role. And they're all really good at what they do. And they can play without their starting right tackle, and you don't even notice it. You don't even notice Havenstein, who's a good player, on the sidelines in that game. And they just look well coached. They execute. They boat raced Tampa, in that first half. And it was just a question of, how many points did they want to put up in that game?
Yeah, a couple things here. One, you're watching Stafford and the way he's playing the MVP level, and think about how well he played in Detroit when he had Megatron, but the rest of those rosters were not in great shape. Took him to the playoffs, coming off an 0-16 year that they had there during his tenure. But I'm sitting there going, man, what if Stafford had been in a quality organization from start to finish with the pieces around him? we could be talking about him as the greatest player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got that type of ability, and the level at which he's played since he got to the Rams is pretty ridiculous. But the other thing I wanted to hit on, Buck, we were talking about this a little bit beforehand. Emmanuel Forbes, he had 5 PBUs in this game. And I'm watching him, and I was talking to Baldy this morning. I went back and read my notes on him coming out. And it was all the stuff that we liked about him coming out. It was the length. It was the fluidity. It was the burst and the close. The guy ran in the 4.3s. He's 166 pounds. He missed tackles in college, but you're gonna live with some of that because the guy can cover so dang well. Washington, I think, grew so frustrated with the tackling and the lack of physicality there that they punted on him, kind of gave up on him. And now you look up, and my comp was Samari Rolle coming out. I even put like Fred Smoot was another name that he kind of reminded me of some leaner guys who just know how to cover and play the ball. And the Rams, man, that was a smart move on their part to scoop him up.
DJ, I remember going back and thinking about that draft. He was my favorite DB in the class because in looking at him, his footwork, his technique, his turns and transitions, his ability to make plays on the ball, to me, stood out above others. Like there's some guys who have the gifts when it comes to being able to cover and do those things. I felt like he had that. And even though the tackling and the lack of physicality was an issue, I just thought in a pass-happy league, he would find a place to be a starting high-end cornerback in the right system. For whatever reason, it didn't work out from Washington. And it was kind of apparent early that it just didn't jibe. His game, and then it just didn't work. But for the Rams, it works. And I can't tell you why exactly. Like sometimes I'll say this environment, culture can bring out more of the desired traits that you want to see from a player. But it works from him. And having a conversation with the Rams staffer after a game, we talked about Emmanuel Forbes and how he settled in and the confidence coming back. And what you're seeing is a first-round talent playing to his strengths as a player.
Well, I think that, coming out of Mississippi State, he had ball skills, obviously. I think he had 13 interceptions for the Bulldogs down there. But just watching him, he just sits on these routes. Like he's a good route reader. He sits on top of these routes and then he makes that's how you get 5 PBUs in a game. You're not guessing. You're just sitting on these things and you're just waiting. You're waiting on, whether it's Tez Johnson or Godwin, somebody just to come back to the ball. And then once that happens, like his foot speed is elite when he can do that. And you're talking about the physicality and the tackles. I just remember something that Rex Ryan always said when he was coaching with the Jets. He goes, I want my corners to cover. I got 9 other guys who are supposed to make the tackle. Let this guy stop the ball from going over my head. I got Reeves out here. I mean, I've got my guys. I'll let the other guys make the tackle.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other thing about him is that he's so lean and he's so long that he's able to get through a receiver without contacting him. So he'll be on their back, and a lot of times receivers can box a guy out and go get to the ball. Well, his hands reach. He's got so much reach, and he can get through you without contacting you. That's how he collected some of those PBUs. Another one where even when he's a little bit beat, man, you got to be able to recover. He can close and recover big time balking speed. So he's been a good find there for the Rams. And I'm with you guys. I think they're playing like the best team of football right now. Baldy, Detroit and the Giants, a game that I didn't have on my bingo card as being, one of the more entertaining close games, made its way into overtime. The Giants had a great shot to steal this one, but Jahmyr Gibbs and company were able to pull it out.
Well, for probably the 5th or 6th time this year, the Giants surrendered the lead again. Shane Bowen is out, fired today. They can't close the game out. They did everything you could do offensively. Wandale is a really good player. And Jameis found him. They had some creativity. Mike Kafka had some creativity in the offense to create some offense. They had Detroit on the ropes. They just could not finish it out. And it's been their story all season long. And credit Detroit for making a comeback. But honestly, like the Giants should have been able to finish that game. I thought Kafka coached a good game. I thought Jameis played really well. He made the plays necessary to get 27 points on the board. You think that you're in good shape up 27-17, but you just go through like Denver and, all these Dallas and all these games where they're just surrendering these leads, just playing these soft coverages. It's just frustrating for any Giant fan.
Yeah, it has to be frustrating because when you think about the way the Giants are constructed from a personnel standpoint, they're constructed to close out games, given their pass rush and given what you want to do. And I understand Shane Bowen prefers soft coverage and zone coverage and those things. And there's a way to accomplish that, not letting the ball fly over your head while being a little more sticky. But the Giants have lost too many of these games where it's in hand. You have your best unit, because I think we would say that their defense is supposed to be their best unit when you look at their personnel, and they haven't been able to get it done. It has to be frustrating for the Giants and the Giants fan base that's used to seeing dominant defenses. Like, that's what the Giants have been built on, going all the way back through time. That's what they're built on. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. And if I was a Giants fan, man, I would be up to my ears in frustration just knowing that this team should be much better than their record indicates.
Yeah, a couple good things on the Giants side of things. Darius Alexander, the rookie, 2 sacks, little bull rip, and then just kind of a firm pocket push out of him. Going back through my notes, 6'0", so just under 6'4", 305 pounds, ran 4.95. A little bit older guy at 25 years old, but 34-inch arms, big-time power. I thought he could bend and move, had a little shake bowl, play with balance.
Good Senior Bowl too, right, TJ?
Really good Senior Bowl ball. Can snatch blocks. Like, he's talented. I think really kind of the age was the knock on him, but a good player, and see him get a couple sacks. Good for him. Abdul Carter, it's shocking he doesn't have the sack production, but you watch him in this game, man, he had 3 quarterback hits, 4 tackles. I thought he was playing fast. He can still. He's got a great takeoff. So the stats are going to come. I wouldn't freak out about, the lack of sack production there. That's going to come eventually. All right, Baldy, let's jump in on the Baldy Bowl, Philly Dallas here. Philly had him dead to rights and could not put him away.
Well, credit Dallas, man. I thought starting at the end of the second quarter, when they took a drive down to cut it to 21-7, I thought the offense line really began to assert itself. All of a sudden, runs that were a yard or 2 yards for the first quarter and a half of that game became 5 and 6 yards. I thought Javonte ran it really, really good, but I thought they protected Dak really well. And, they just hung in there. And then the defense, honestly, for Dallas, I give them credit. They had trouble with Devontae and with AJ to start that game, and Jalen was really, really, really sharp. And then, they cannot run the ball when they have to run the ball all year. I mean, I don't think anybody has more runs of 2 yards or less than Saquon. Like, he can't get a run. And some of it is him. Mm-hmm. Some of it is there's just not a burst there that used to be there. Some of it is his instincts to where the hole is going to be. And then a lot of it is just up front. I don't know what they're doing on some of these runs up front with Juergens and some of the guards and how they're blocking these things. But that newly built defensive line of Dallas, they showed up. They showed up quite a bit in that second half.
It's funny, right? So it took the Cowboys the long road to get to this point where they have a better defense in terms of like a more balanced defense when you have Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark and you got OC. I can always mess with the last name. Odigizua being there. So they're really good there. And they've kind of bought into and kind of found their way in Matt Eberflus's scheme. So they're playing better. And then offensively, they have a team that they can score. And whenever you can score, it's easier to build a defense that can play with that kind of firepower and play complementary ball in that vein. The thing that's tricky about this game is they were behind. I mean, they were getting whooped, and they find a way to hold the rope. So give Brian Schottenheimer credit. We talked about it last time on the last podcast. We talked about the job that he's doing and just how amazing he's done in his first year, just holding everything together in a place that is very difficult to win in as a coach. Like, give them credit. Like, they're 5-5-1. I don't know where it ends up for them, but they have a lot of respect in terms of just how they're competing each and every week. There's certain things that they can build on going forward in the Brian Schottenheimer era.
There was a stretch in this game where Dak just literally took the game over. They're down 21-7. They're down on the 5-yard line, and Dak rolls to his right. He finds Brevin Ford Span, like in the back of the end zone. I mean, it's the last second. He's being chased. He's going out of bounds, and he just floats it over the head of the underneath defender. Touchdown. They get a stop. They come back. He hits Pickens on a 48-yard shot where he just turns Cooper DeJean all the way around. And then 2 plays later, Dak took it in and scrambled and did a flip into the end zone to tie the game up. And literally within 4.5 minutes, they went from down 21-7 to tied at 21, and they got themselves right back into the game early in that fourth quarter.
I'm glad you guys got me to Dak because that's what I wanted to get to. Look where he is projected wise now. If you just take his numbers right now and project him out over the rest of the season, he's on pace for 4,545 yards, 36 touchdowns, 11 picks. he's completing 69.3% of his passes. I feel like people got to be reminded a little bit because, and maybe it's Cowboy fatigue that people are sick of talking about him and all that kind of stuff, but he has held this team together and kept them in this thing where they're still alive here in the NFC. And he's playing outside of Stafford. You'd be hard pressed to tell me who's playing better than Dak when he's locked in and when he's on, making every throw under center in the gun. You're moving him, your touch throws, up and down throws, vertical shots. He had one ball. He's just a red zone pick where he got locked in after they had a dumb penalty at the 1 yard line and he forces a ball and ends up getting picked. But overall, I thought he saw the field really, really well. And the other thing I would say, Buck, is going through it and watching all of his stuff and studying him was this offensive line against a very, very talented front across the board for Philly held up quite well.
Yeah, the offensive line for Dallas is terrific. And look, there's certain things that always hold true when it comes to the Cowboys. When Cowboys are great, they have a dominant offensive line. They can get it done punishing you running the ball. They haven't necessarily done that consistently this year, but man, they always have a wall of big bodies up front to protect the quarterback. Dak Prescott has been terrific. And I will say this because we talked about this before we clicked on the pod. George Pickens is what we thought that he could be at his best when he was coming out of school. He is terrific playing on the opposite side of CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys have always been at their best when they have two legitimate weapons on the outside, Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper, however you want to do it, they do it. And because you cannot singly double team CeeDee Lamb without getting punished, it balances out the defense and it opens up the field for Dak Prescott. Look, at the end, they're going to have to make a decision on what they do with George Pickens. But if I'm the Cowboys, you better find a way to pay him so you can keep him and CeeDee in the fold because this offense is explosive.
Just to touch on what you were talking about, DJ, about the offensive line, you think about what the Eagles did to the Packers and the Lions back-to-back weeks. They just dominated both lines, whether it was home or away. And they didn't do that against this Dallas front. Tyler Booker, in the second half, he had a good game against Jalen Carter. But the whole group, all those guys that affected the game last week against Detroit that Jared Goff was still talking about a week later, about how physical they were and how good they were. And all the guys up front recognizing the Eagles, they did not do that to Dallas in this game. And so credit Booker and, Tyler Smith and Guyton, the whole group, man. Cooper Beebe played really well in there. That was a really well done job up front.
Yeah, just to wrap up both you guys there. To me, if you're getting ready and you're putting an advanced scouting report for the Cowboys, to me, George Pickens is the one who's getting the attention. He's just been better than CeeDee Lamb. If you're going to try and double somebody or take somebody away, I think I'm leaning in that direction, which is crazy that you would have said that coming into this season, but that's who's doing the damage. So that's the first side of it. And then on the other side of it, this felt like I picked the Eagles to lose this game just because it kind of felt like look at their schedule, like they've been in some wars against the best teams in football, and they've come out on the right side of the vast majority of those games. I thought they would be a little bit tired, a little fatigued. Cowboys, a little emotional, after the death of their teammate coming back home, all those things. So not totally surprised that Dallas was able to get a win there. Last point on this game, Baldy, A.J. Brown, 8 for $110 and a touchdown. So that's a good sign for the Eagles. And I was curious to watch it. Like, okay, what'd they have to do to get him going? Well, it turns out you can just throw hitches to him against soft coverage and make people tackle your big guy. Yeah. I was talking at the top about high school football, watching, high school playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And I always tell people the goal of high school football should be to make the other team tackle your best player as many times as possible. Yeah. Bucky's done that because he'll put his athlete at quarterback and just say, we're going to run it and make him tackle our best guy. We're like, this is not hard with A.J. Brown. You don't have to throw him the ball 50 yards down the field. Just get the ball in his hands and make people have to tackle that big monster.
Yeah. No, DJ, like it goes back. When I was in Green Bay, Mike Holmgren was the head coach and he had come from San Francisco. And on his play sheet, there used to be this little column, right? And whoever the best wide receiver was, it was a get the ball to that number. So if I am with the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a get the ball to number 11, get the ball to number 6. And they're like 5 or 6 plays that are not complex plays. He's the primary read. He's the isolation route. It's a hitch, a slant, out, something designed to keep him engaged. And during my time in Green Bay, Gil Haskell was the wide receiver coach, and his job was to tap Coach Holmgren on the shoulder every 2 series. Hey, such and such hasn't had the ball in a couple series. Let's remember to keep him engaged, because as a play caller, sometimes you're so bogged down with all the X's and O's, and I want to get to this. that you forget it's about players, not plays. And I think for the Eagles, it's really as simple as that, because that'll curb a lot of this disgruntled stuff that we're getting in their locker room. Just keep them involved in the game while running what you want to run on offense.
The Eagles really hurt themselves. They had 14 penalties. They were constantly backing up. And after big plays, I mean, a 20-yard play to Goddard, comes back because, they've got an illegal shift. I mean, just a horrible penalties that were called. And they got it, and so all of a sudden, instead of 1st and 10, you're 2nd and 20, and they had a hard time coming out of a lot of those predicaments.
Yeah. Again, it just felt like this was they were due to kind of have somewhat of an egg, and they jump on them 21-0. I'm like, well, I guess I read this wrong. Man, they're going to blow the Cowboys out of the building. But then they just kind of sputtered, and the Cowboys get a big win. Man, how about that Thursday game, by the way? Holy moly. Chiefs, Cowboys. I didn't see.
That is a good game.
Baldy, did you guys ever use the phrase loser leave town match, or is that just for wrestling? But it feels like it's apropos for this one.
I like the Chiefs just had 100 plays. I got to see what kind of fatigue they're going to have going down to Dallas. I played in that, Thanksgiving Day game a long, long time back before, there was Thursday night football. Like we lived to learn how to get ourselves ready to play 2 games in 4 days. We knew we had a little mini bye afterwards. We could rest up, but our whole preparation was we're getting ready for 2 games in 4 days. That's what Dallas and Kansas City's got to do on short weeks here after tough games. So we'll see who's still standing there in the fourth quarter of this one on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, speaking of that, the NFL continues to honor and commemorate the late John Madden with the 4th annual John Madden Thanksgiving celebration on Thursday, November 27th. A special NFL-produced Madden Hallmark will kick off each broadcast, conveying what Thanksgiving meant to him in his own words. So cool how they've branded these games around John Madden, his legacy there.
It's great.
Very cool. Buck, Chicago Bears, white hot. Didn't matter. Pittsburgh came in, no Aaron Rodgers. They just find a way. Chicago, know one thing, it's not going to be comfortable. They're not going to win by 2 touchdowns. That's not the way they play, but they are becoming quite adept at winning close ball games, as they did again.
They are, man, because they have physicality and pizzazz. Like Ben Johnson has been able to meld those things together, where they are a physical team. They're kind of getting back to their roots of what the franchise has been about, while building around a quarterback who has a flair for the dramatic. And Ben Johnson has been able to rein it in defensively. They get turnovers. They're playing good ball. And I felt like this was the game that they were pointing to validate who they are. They needed to have that win against a physical football team that people would respect to then get the respect that they want. And now that you're looking at them, you're looking at Detroit kind of having ebbs and flows offensively because Dan Campbell's having to take it over. Their defense is kind of scattershot. The Green Bay Packers still haven't realized their potential. The Bears have to feel good about their plot and where they are. Now, they got to go and do it on the field, but they are well positioned to not only make the postseason, but to maybe swipe this division at a time where I don't know if you really could buy into the hype before the season. Man, they're playing good ball, and Ben Johnson has certainly proven anyone who thought that it would take him a while to turn this around, he's certainly proven all those guys wrong.
Can I give you guys just one example, by the way, why it's, there's a lot of things I like better the way we grew up in our generations versus this new generation. But when you get a text on the family group chat that says, can someone bring me some toilet paper? We didn't have that when we were growing up, man. It was, you got no toilet paper. That's a tough walk. That's a tough walk to another bathroom.
There's only one bathroom in the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I won't get into what other options we had, but it was not in the family group chat. I can tell you that much. Somebody else is taking care of it, by the way, so I'm off the hook. Hey, Baldy, how about my App State linebacker in this ball game?
DeMarco Jackson. First NFL start. Dennis, I guess he came with Dennis Allen from New Orleans.
The Saints, yeah.
Yeah, he was with the Saints for 2 years. Never started a game in his life. They're down Tremaine Edmonds. They're down T.J. Edwards. They're down Noah Sewell. Hippolyte got hurt in that game. So they're playing Ahmad
Beniga. He was with
I know.
I called him Amon on the air all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I knew he played at Oklahoma State. Been around the league.
Great kid, by the way.
Yeah, great kid. But DeMarco had 15 tackles. And, he shows up like there was a huge play in the game. It's 3rd and 2, and they're throwing it to Gainwell out there in the flat. They got a lead blocker. Mm-hmm. He defeats the block, and he tackled him for a 1-yard loss, and the whole defense jumped on top of him. Mm-hmm. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's there. They're all like, that was a big play. They had to punt the ball at that spot. There was a series in this game that's interesting. The Bears, with 19 seconds to go in the first half, they go for it. And they make 2 plays, and they kick a field goal to cut the lead to 21-17. They come out in the third quarter, and Caleb's ball doesn't hit the ground. 5 straight completions and a touchdown on a broken coverage by the Steelers to DJ Moore. Like, literally, the ball didn't hit the ground on a 60-yard drive. And, I mean, Caleb just ripped one after another. But the play calling, when they call the slow screen and all 4 Steelers are on top of Caleb and he floats it over their head and he's got the convoy out front. I mean, it was just they overcame a 1st and 20 on a stupid play by DJ Moore where it was just taunting. It was really impressive to watch that third quarter drive.
Yeah, big time win for the Chicago Bears. So they're rolling. Schedule's a little tougher coming down the home stretch here. So they'll be challenged. We're looking forward to seeing how they do coming down the stretch. All right, last game we'll get to here, Buck, and we got to start with Shedeur. Cleveland, they get a win over the Raiders. Raiders have since fired Chip Kelly.
Dang.
It's rough out these streets, buddy. Special teams coaches they got 2 coordinators gone. The offensive line played well, only gave up 10 sacks, but neither here nor there.
Let's get quarterback hits too.
Oh, by the way, yeah, that was it. That Gino, after a while too, you're watching it. He's like 1-2, and then it just duck. He didn't even he wasn't even trying to throw the ball away.
There was a play. I forget who they gave the sack to. Maybe Malik Collins.
Yeah, and
literally all 4 defensive linemen were buried on top of Gino.
Yeah,
like which one should we give it to? I think they all got a quarter of a sack.
Yeah, that was tough watch. But Shedeur, I'll go through my notes real quick, Buck. Then I want to get your take on 11 for 20, 209, a touchdown and pick. Started off, I like get him a quick screen, get him in a rhythm, little stick route. Did a nice job on boots, had a real beautiful deep ball over the top. The thing that I wrote down that stood out to me the most is the way I described it was he did an excellent job of playing fast to slow. In other words, when we got to move, let's move quick. But then before we throw, let's gather ourselves with some poise and then throw the ball. He didn't get sped up is what I'm getting at. He was able to slow himself down, which really helped him with his accuracy when he was having to move off his spot a little bit.
Yeah, DJ, I think the most impressive part, like everyone will talk about those big boy throws, like the deep ball and the explosive nature of the offense. But I was more impressed with his willingness to take the check down. Because as you know, if you take the check down enough, it forces the defense to react. I had a college coach to say every completion impacts the defense. No matter what they say, like, hey, make them take the check down. When you start completing check downs, it opens up the things at the next level. And his patience early taking that was great. I think he played the game the way that I thought that they would build it for him, put him on the move, some quicks, some play actions, and get some shots. It wasn't perfect, but I will say this. There's an energy that he brings to the team that is undeniable. And I know that Kevin Stefanski has kind of downplayed everything. Not that there's a conspiracy against him, but he's tried to kind of take some of that. But I think if you're looking at the team, you can feel the energy of the team when a certain quarterback is in. There's an energy there. And so it'll be interesting to see what the Browns decide to do if Dylan Gabriel is cleared from concussion protocol. Do they go back to Dylan Gabriel as the starter? Shedeur, like, it's an interesting discussion that they're going to have internally.
Well, just from that point, Buck, the throw to Isaiah Bond, down to the goal line. I mean, the whole bench, everybody jumped. Myles Garrett, everybody jumped off the bench as soon as they saw it. I mean, it's 55 yards on the run. Myles is chasing him. Tyree Wilson is chasing him, and he let that thing fly. Dylan Gabriel can't make that throw. Like, it's just not going to do it. The throw to Jerry Jeudy, like, I don't know what Jeudy was doing. I mean,
a hop, skip, and a jump and holding the ball like a loaf of bread. You didn't like that? I've never seen that,
DJ. In all my time watching football, high school level, maybe in California they do those kind of things.
He's a Florida boy. He's a Florida boy. He's not a California kid.
I haven't seen that before. That was like not too. But anyways, I'm with you, Buck. There is a palpable support from this team for him. Maybe because of what he's gone through. Who knows? But maybe it's just because he's likable. I don't know. Like, I'm not. None of us are in the locker room. So, but you could feel it though. It was permeating throughout the game when he was out there, and they were openly cheering for him to do well. And if I'm Kevin Stefanski, regardless of Dylan, I got to see what he can do.
I want to see more of that. Yeah, I want to see more, man. There was encouraging signs. I mean, look, the Raiders stink, but he did some really good things we haven't seen there. And trust me, as someone who's worked in that organization, even though it was a long time ago, this is an organization that's not done a ton of winning. And having somebody with the confidence and the belief that is important, man. You got to, if you're going to turn that ship around there, the way things have gone, you need somebody who has that type of belief. We saw it with Jim Harbaugh. He went to Stanford. It was like, he must be crazy. He thinks he can. You can't win there. Like I know he thinks he can win. You can't win there. Yeah. You need somebody with that confidence, whether it's the coach, the quarterback, and he brings that, Buck.
He certainly does, man. And I mean, you can just feel the vibe and the energy. And let's be honest, like this is part of a long-term play when it comes to this team. I think what's interesting, though, I know it caused some of the buzz, but Deshaun Watson being on the sideline, talking to Shedeur, kind of being around and being, I would say, a bit of a mentor. I thought that was interesting that they took him on the trip the first time that he's traveled all year. And you see the interactions and you see how they were going through the surface and looking at the clips. It's an interesting observation because they have to make a decision on Deshaun too, but for Shedeur and the other quarterbacks to lean into someone who has had a level of success in this league, even though it hasn't looked great of late. I thought it was just interesting that Deshaun Watson was that engaged. I think it kind of speaks to a little bit of the energy that we talked about on the sideline.
You know, it's interesting because every rookie class, you always feel like there's a bond naturally when you come in together. And you watch Judkins and Sampson and Fannin and Schlesinger and Graham and now Shedeur. Like the whole draft class is out there all making plays, all of them. And so it's kind of interesting to see, like you can just imagine the fraternity that they might feel as a group going, we're going to be the guys that turn this organization around because they all can play. They've all earned their spot and they show up every week. And now Shedeur's on the field. You feel like this can complete that rookie class as they try to finish this season as strong as they can.
Yeah, a little hope, a little optimism there for the Browns. Much needed. Very cool to see. This has been fun, Baldy. Always enjoy your time on these Mondays, man. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yep.
We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it, guys.
Buck, fun weekend of games. Looking forward to getting into some more of this stuff here over the next couple of days as we get a little closer to Thanksgiving. It's you can't beat it, man. Thanksgiving football, it's awesome.
No, it brings everything back to it, right, man? To culminate it like with a Thanksgiving Day smorgasbord of games, but at a time where we talk about gratitude and being gracious, and at a time when we work so hard, sometimes you can forget the small blessings that everyone gets. I'm excited that this week ends up being a reset moment for everybody to appreciate the things, the positive things that they have going on in their life, and even some of the adversities that you face and what comes out of facing those things. So I'm excited for the football week, but I'm more excited for all the things that go around this holiday.
Hey, no doubt. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.